the John C. Calhoun statue, to protesters, to affordable housing, I talk one-on-one with City of Charleston Council member Peter Shahid for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Councilman Peter Shahid, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks for inviting me. It's been a long time.
Yes, sir. It's this past summer.
Absolutely. It's good to be with you. I got my mask on.
Yeah, I got my gate in my pocket, but people can't hear me when I'm talking.
All right. Well, I'll talk clear and loud so people can hear me okay.
Sure. There's been so much going on in the city of Charleston since the last time we spoke.
Yes.
What is it like for you, Councilman Peter Shahid, to be a councilman right now?
It's wonderful. I've enjoyed every moment of it, every opportunity. I got involved in being on city council because I thought I could make a difference. I thought I could work with people and address issues that were important to them. And I think we're doing that right now. And it's challenging. It's more time demanding than I expected for this year. But I love it, and I'm enjoying every opportunity I have to work with folks, to meet people like you and my constituents, and keep on plugging along.
What are the issues now?
Well, flooding is still a huge issue, and I was so happy to find out that I don't know if the governor has signed the bill yet, but this bill that he's going to sign is going to. Sorry.
No worries, I'll start over.
Okay. Start over.
Yeah, okay, that's perfect. Okay. Alrighty.
I turned that off.
Okay. Councilman Peter Shahid, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be back on the show.
I appreciate it greatly.
Anytime.
Yeah, thank you greatly. There's so many things going on in the city right now. Describe Peter Shahid, the Charleston City Council member.
Yes, sir. Well, it's been a twist. If we had sat down in February and you had told me we were in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic crisis, I would have thought, oh, good Lord. 2020 took a detour. We were planning the commemoration of Charleston 350. We were having sailboat races coming in here. We were having a celebration at Charlestown Landing, a celebration at the Joe, planning for this big long table in November, and all that got turned on its head. But with every challenge comes an opportunity. With every opportunity comes another reward, and I've just enjoyed every moment of my time as on City Council.
What are the rewards right now?
Rewards are you see positive things happening in our community. We still are dealing with some major issues with flooding, for number one. But we're reaching out to people, we're talking to folks, and we're addressing the things that are a major concern for them.
And let me pick up on that, because obviously, when you think about what's going on right now with COVID and all these other issues, what is the quality of life in your district?
Well, the quality of life, I hope, is still at a high level. Folks are dealing with school issues because of COVID-19. They're dealing with those who are in small businesses, dealing with loss of income because of COVID-19. Those things are very important to folks. And still, the flooding issues are what they are. And we've been dealing with that on a regular basis. I have my monthly coffee and conversation with Peter at Constituent Forum.
Right.
Matt Fountain came on and gave a very quick overview of the number of projects are in District 9. And I've got about a dozen plus projects that are in different stages of development in District 9.
Let me jump right into it, because with the COVID situation affecting the local economy so badly, do you know how it has affected tax revenues that your district need to fund projects?
Well, we get different sources of income, and from people's property taxes, enterprise, right, hospitality, and accommodation tax. I mean, that's the big numbers that are coming out. And so we have a stormwater fee that we collect that goes to the stormwater, and thanks to our local representatives, Marlon Kimpson and Leon Savadakis and others, participated in getting a bill passed, and I think the governor's going to sign it in short order. That's going to free up some of that money, so we're not restricted to just tourism-related events. We can use some of that money to address flooding issues, and that's going to be a huge boost for us, a huge boost for the citizens of Charleston and for citizens of District 9.
In District 9, let me talk to you about that. city-owned Piggly Wiggly.
Yes.
When are their concepts going to turn into actually something?
Well, Quintin, I think the way you phrase the question is inaccurate. We have done a lot with that. We bought the property. We demolished an eyesore of a property. We've had several citizens forums to come forward so we get input from the city and our residents, what they wanted out there. And now we've got a company that we're dealing with on a contract. And so right now we're just going through the nuts and bolts. We're not into the weeds of what this agreement's going to look like, so that they have their financial house in order as to what they can do to put up a commercial facility there, or facilities there, and for the city to maintain control at the tip of the area for civic use. So that's in the pipeline. It's taking a little bit longer. Things don't move fast in city government, but we're on the right track, and we're getting close to the finish line on that. So once that memorandum of understanding is completed and executed, then we'll start seeing actual things happening on the property.
You talk about that agreement. What was the city's agreement?
Well, the city bidded this out to get companies to come in. Landmark bid on it successfully, and so then we told them what we were looking for. We showed them our plans. They took that. They came up with their own design. So it took a little while for the design to come through. We've gone through that part of it. It's very consistent with what the citizens are looking for. So now we just got to put together this legal arrangement so that we're legally on the same page.
Where are you on the page right now, legally?
We're very close to it being wrapped up.
Now, you talked about the finances being in order for the company. Is the city's finances in order?
No. Well, the city's finances are, listen, any development is going to be like this. What is the area they want to develop? They've got to come up with a plan, and for their own internal use, just to make sure it makes financial sense.
Sure.
And the only way you can get all that together is, what are we locked into? What are our obligations? What's this going to look like? And so that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah, you've got to be money smart on this to make sure that you're not dived into a project that's not going to be financially stable.
And you talk about plans. Let me talk to you about the Citadel Mall.
Mm-hmm.
18 stories. Have they been able to send any paperwork into the TRC about changing the mall into the Epic Center to start the process?
That's in sort of the same kind of sphere that we're in right now.
Okay.
And that's going to have a little bit more of a city involvement in it, because they're going to be looking for the city to do some more infrastructure. We've been working on the DuPont Walpole area for flooding issues. And so we got that plan in place. And again, they're mapping out their strategy on how this is all going to come into place. This is not going to happen overnight.
Sure.
But it's in the very clear development phase of all of this. And I'm very confident we're going to see more. What people want to see is something coming out of the ground, right? And that's what people are looking for to see. I want to see that too. But you've got to do the planning. You got to do the work. When you come you want to repaint a wall, what do you got to do? You got to take all the pictures down. You got to sand it down. Make sure the wall is ready, because once you put that final coat of paint on it, you want it to look nice. You want it to be the thing that you want. Same thing with planning and development. You've got to do all the hard behind the scenes work that people don't see what's taking place first, to get it to the point that you want it to be at. And that's what we're doing right now.
Now, you talk about the development phase. What phase are we on right now?
Well, this is a private enterprise, so sure. This is the city doesn't have much control over their pace and what they want to do, but we are in partnership with them on certain things, and so we're in that phase of making sure all those pieces are in place. All the pieces of the puzzle are in place for that as well.
And with the current plans, have the public been able to look at these plans?
Well, they made a showing before we approved the PUD.
Right.
And so yes, they've got a look into that. People were concerned about the height. We made some adjustments with that. Making sure affordable housing is very much a part of all this. That's included in there as well.
And you talk about housing. Let me talk to you about rezoning apartments on 61. Has there been an increase in traffic? And if so, what is the city's plan to reduce it?
Well, I don't have those numbers. I can't tell you if there's been an increase or decrease in traffic. The affordable housing thing that we debated last city council meeting. Affordable housing I think is one of the most important things that we do in city government. If we need to make sure that our population is diverse, that people have an opportunity to live within the city limits. That reduces traffic by having folks who are not traveling 15, 20 miles out because they can't afford living into the city of Charleston. We have too many of our former residents, too many of our former citizens who we've pushed out because property values have gone too high, and rent's gone too high, owning in the house is too high. We've got to balance all this out to make sure that we set aside land and housing for people so they can afford it. If you don't do that, then you are actually increasing the traffic because you're increasing the travel time. People coming from farther distances out coming into the community. That's the sensible thing that we're trying to do, and we're making sure that we do that. And I understand the folks concerned.
Okay.
That land's going to be developed. It's going to be developed for something, and it's either going to be developed for much more dense housing, which was the information we got.
Yeah.
It could have gone even more dense and more housing, add more traffic to it, or go commercial, which is going to have more transitional traffic, and you're adding more problems to the area. It's, property is going to be developed. The question is, are we being smart in working with the private owners to make sure it's the right kind of development that's going to be fit and have positive impact? And I think that our vote did that.
Okay. What incentives do you want the developers to bring in for this opportunity?
Well, you're talking about that in particular?
Yes,
and that particular issue is going to be for affordable housing.
Okay.
For the Epic Center,
Right.
You're going to have retail, office,
Right.
Housing. That's pretty good. Plus recreational.
Sure.
That's a good diversity.
And you talk about obviously setting aside a bunch of land. How much have you set aside for District 9 so far?
Well, we've got the houses that are being developed in Maryville, Asheville.
Sure.
We've got, and this is not in my district per se,
Right.
but dealing with on 61
Sure.
and dealing with over also on West Ashley. And also what I did when I was president of the Charleston County Bar Association to make sure that people who owned land had a will, because it's a very simple aspect of succession and transfer of title. You want to make sure that's orderly. So the folks who own land in my district had a plan to make sure they went to the right people and then they weren't being bought out because they had a dispute of who owned the property. So we did that, and that was a big plus to have those folks making sure that their land is going to the people they wanted to go to.
And you talked earlier about property values. What is the average property value in District 9?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't done my research on that. I can't tell you that. I looked at some of the demographics.
Yes, sir.
As to what the median income in the Charleston County area is, but I don't know the answer on the top of my head with that.
Let me turn to the Calhoun statue.
Okay.
From my understanding, the base removal is still needed, but that it has not been contracted. Is there an RFP ready for this?
I don't know.
Okay. And two, the bid package has not been put together. Did council have a say in that bid package?
For what part?
For the base removal.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And what is
And I don't know. I mean,
Okay,
I don't know.
sure.
I don't know the value of what's it going to cost to do that.
Yeah.
We got certain rules and regulations,
Sure.
and by law,
Right.
if it reaches a certain level, we have to have that
Right.
bid out, and we have a say in that. But we also have a say on the actual expenditure of that. I mean, we have to approve that. Now, whatever it's going to cost, if it hits that threshold, we'll be involved in that process, and we'll be involved in the ultimate decision of whether or not to approve the expenditures for that happening.
Well, that brings me to my next question. How much additional funding will be paid to the company, potentially tax dollars, to remove that pillar?
I don't know what the cost is.
Okay. Does the city have any plans to use the pedestal to put a different monument on?
Well, the pedestal itself, the bottom base.
Sure.
I don't know. We're going to figure out what it's going to cost to remove that base, how they're going to remove it, and what to do with it. Now, there was some issues about whether or not the column should have been brought down the way it was brought down. If there was a way, and my preference would have been to be able to take that pedestal down, the column down, and reuse it someplace else. I think it was a beautiful column, and if we could have reused it someplace else, that would have been my preference. The pedestal, the pedestal is a pedestal. I mean, I don't know what other value it may have on that, and you've got to find some use for it. And, in all honesty,
Yes, sir.
all the other issues we're dealing with on all this, I don't care what they do with the pedestal. I really don't. I mean, we've got flooding issues, we got public safety issues, We got so many affordable housing issues. Are we going to spend a whole lot of time debating on what to do with a pedestal? Honestly.
You talk about public safety. Let me go back to May 30th.
Okay.
Who was controlling this? Was it the mayor or was it the chief?
Well, the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city. So the mayor is responsible for all departments within the city.
Right.
The chief of police is the top guy who's responsible for his department. And he makes the strategic decisions on what to and not to do when it came to May 30th.
What should the chief done differently and what should the mayor done differently?
So we have talked about, and this is the 29th of September,
Yeah.
we should receive a draft of an action item report either sometime before the end of the month, which is today or tomorrow.
Right.
That report will go to the Public Safety Committee. Once that goes to the Public Safety Committee, we'll come up with a timeline and an agenda, releasing that to the public and getting public input onto the results of that action item report.
Now, I know you met, obviously, with the business leaders right after the riots.
Yes.
What was that meeting like?
A lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of what happened and what's happened to my company, what's happened to my business, what's happened to King Street,
Right.
and all rightfully so. I have said this 100 times. King Street to me is very precious. My family had a store on King Street, and I grew up on King Street. It was Shade's apartment store. I literally all my life until going to law school. I even worked there while I was in law school, quite frankly. But after I got into practice, I worked and lived on King Street, and I understand. And it, to me, it is the spine of the city, and we've got to protect King Street and make sure our merchants are taken care of, that it is lively, it is viable. It is a place for not just tourists, but a place for Charlestonians. It's got to be protected and revitalized.
How could it be viable when there's always so many protesters almost every week? What is the city's plan to stop this?
You know, people have a right
Sure.
to peacefully protest.
Sure.
So you're not going to tell people they can't assemble. That's in violation of our Constitution. You know, people have a right to protest. They have a right to assemble. The question becomes when they go outside of the boundary lines that the police think they have exceeded what is in the public safety, and they have been very smart about that. They've controlled it. There were some arrests made this last weekend, and the chief's on top of all this to make sure that while you assemble, it's peaceful and it doesn't interrupt and disrupt people's ordinary lives.
Now, what is a business plan for these stores to come back and revive themselves after the COVID and the riots?
Yeah, you got the commission that's looking into all of that.
Okay.
So they're studying that. They're coming up with some ideas. I've got some ideas of what should happen, but let's let this plan work its way through and see what we come up with.
Let me turn to masks. What type of data does the city have to keep the mask ordinance in place?
What kind of
Data.
You know, if you ask me these questions in advance, I can do some research
I'm
for
sorry.
you. And I'm not a computer. I'm not an encyclopedia that's going to pop out with these statistics for you like that. The mask ordinance, the main thrust of the mask ordinance, and I'll repeat this 100 times, is to educate people. I got my mask on because I'm sitting within 6 feet of you.
Right.
You should have your mask on as well. But the idea of the mask is to protect me and to protect you. I'm 65 years old. I'm in that category that I'm susceptible to COVID-19.
Okay.
If I get sick, I can't do my job. I had to be home. I can't meet with my constituents. I can't work here in my office. It's devastating to have that. We know that what we don't know, and that is even after you recover from this disease, what long-lasting impact it may have on you. We don't know the answer to that question. We know that this is like playing with fire. And so we need to be smart. And part of the mask ordinance is education for folks. You know, wash your hands. If you don't feel good, stay at home. Wear a mask, practice social distancing. We see the numbers improve when we do those sort of things. When we don't do those sort of things, we see a spike in that. We saw what happened at the University of South Carolina. The first week they were open, the numbers went off the roof because the students were together, they were assembling, they weren't practicing those things that I just mentioned to you. Down here it's the same thing. We have been very fortunate on corralling a little bit these numbers. And we, as I said before, we just hit a couple of weeks ago the 200,000 number of deaths in America. Worldwide, 1 million people have died from this. That's a lot of people. We got to be smart about this disease.
Will the city extend its mask ordinance?
I don't know. We'll see how these numbers are. We'll see what happens with numbers as they're coming in. Charleston's a very mild climate. We can spend time outside in October. It's not like in the Northeast, when the weather gets really bad and cold, people are assembled inside. So let's see what happens in October. Let's see what happens in November. It gets a little bit colder in December than January and February. Let's see how those months play out and make sure, and hopefully, I wish tomorrow we had a vaccine tomorrow. That's not going to happen, obviously. But as soon as we get the vaccine and we see how we are handling the colder weather, go get your flu shot, I'm told. That's very important. Go ahead and get your flu shot so that you're not susceptible to COVID-19 or the flu, which can weaken your immune system. Let's be smart about all of this. That's all we're trying to get people to do is just practice good, common sense things that I mentioned before.
You talk about November. Let me ask you this, Mr. Peter, and you probably know about this more than I do, but why is there so much interest in Charleston County Council's District 6 race in your mind?
And which one's District 6?
With Kylon between
Kylon and
Darrell Ray Griffin.
I don't know. This is a seat held by Vic Roll. I haven't looked at all the numbers of how this is going to impact the Democratic Republican countdown and all of that. Kylon Middleton is a first-class man. He is civic-minded. He has shown through his time in his leadership with his involvement with the Illumination Project. He's a quality fella. I wish him well. I'm helping him out the best I can. I want to see him elected. Why there's a whole lot of contention with that? It's like I think any other race. One person's running against somebody else. Someone's going to win. Someone's going to lose.
You talk about the Illumination Project. Would you have voted to increase the consulting contract to $50,000 annually?
For the Illumination Project? I think the Illumination Project is, we have shifted over.
Okay.
So we have gone to a different direction. We phased out the Illumination Project, and we've come up with another idea. We talked about that a little bit yesterday at this press conference we had. So that's a non-question.
Why the change?
I think that they saw the pluses of all that, and now that they just want to go in a little bit different direction with it. It's all based about community involvement and community input, and with community outreach to the public, and how best to do that. I think they wanted to see a different shift with how they wanted to manage that.
Now, with Quintin's close-ups, I want to make it abundantly clear. It's no holds barred, so I don't give people questions in advance because it's not fair to the other people. But, I want to ask you all these tough questions because I want to hold the people accountable.
That's fine. You're holding accountable. But when you ask these specific questions about something data that I haven't looked into, I don't memorize all that.
I understand.
So, you give me a little bit of advance warning and say, I want you to answer these following questions on data. I'm glad to do that. I don't have that information off the top of my head. I got to look things up sometimes.
I'm going to get back to you with those questions now.
Well, you tell me exactly what you want on data and exactly what you want on specific information. I will get that for you, and answer to the best of my ability. Any of these tough questions you have. I'm not going to shy away from any question you ask me. If I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know.
And I appreciate it.
I'm going to be, you be fair with me, I'll be fair with you. How about that?
Councilman Peter Shahid, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Let's not be so far apart next time we chat. How about that?
Thank you.
All right.